Hey viewers, real quick, click the top link in the video description to join my mailing list. I'll have merch and a book coming out soon, so join the mailing list and I can send you updates on those things. Thank you.
Yes, okay, so carbon-14 is a molecule that is, don't try and make me lie to you to tell you exactly what it starts off as, and then its radiation bounces off of the atmosphere and turns it into a carbon atom, but still has a elemental weight. It still has an elemental weight of 14.
Okay, so really quick, what happens is cosmic rays turn nitrogen in the atmosphere into carbon-14, and carbon-14 just naturally radiates, decays back into nitrogen. Into
carbon.
Nitrogen.
Yeah. So it takes right about 5,700 years, correct?
For half of it to do that.
Yeah, for a half-life. My bad. I believe that currently we are producing, what is it, like 20% more C14 than is decay?
No,
we are producing it at a 20%
but we don't make C14, but we make too much carbon, and so you can't reliably carbon date anything that's less than like 200-ish years old.
Okay, that is correct.
Nuclear testing messed it up too.
Okay, well that's fair. But here's the thing. Even with all of those things producing yet more C14, right? Like all of these things are contributing to the production of C14, right?
Yeah. Well,
okay.
No, just to carbon, not C14.
Okay, well, here's the problem. We have yet to reach a state of equilibrium where it's no longer decaying faster than it's being produced in the natural state of things, right?
We don't make carbon-14, so no, that's not the case.
I'm not saying that we as people.
The problem is there's no carbon. The problem is there's too much carbon-12. It has nothing to do with carbon-14. But this is only a problem for dating. This is only a problem for trying to date things that are within the last about 150 years. It's not a problem for older things.
Okay, I'm not saying that we're producing the C14 as humans. I'm saying this giant ball of rock that we're spinning off into the distance in is still producing C14 faster than it is decaying, correct?
I would assume so, because otherwise it disappears, but that's always been the case, so that's clearly not an issue with doing carbon-14 dating.
Carbon-14 dating, or forget the wording. Anyway, carbon dating something cannot work. We can agree on that.
We know it works. It's been scientifically proven to work.
I'm not trying to.
That's why scientists do it. To say it doesn't work is that's just a conspiracy.
Okay. Now, we do not have a state of equilibrium. That's the problem.
State of equilibrium.
Yes, you do. If you don't have a state of equilibrium, that means that it does not remain at a steady point of, point blank, 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 blank amount of carbon-14 that exists within something for even 45 minutes, much less thousands of years. Okay?
No, that's not at all how that works.
That is exactly how
atmosphere continuously makes carbon-14, and that carbon-14 gets in the soil and organisms absorb it. To the degree that the numbers get off, scientists have ways of verifying that. So, for example, we can look at tree ring data, and we can take things that we know for a fact are a certain number of thousands of years old because we have the tree ring data to go back. We can date that thing, and then we adjust our carbon-14 dating for those things in those environments. So scientists know of ways that they can adjust for this. Scientists need to have the most accurate measurement systems they can possibly have. And so
Absolutely.
like these things that people think they thought of it before the scientific enterprise thought of it. I mean, no. Decades ago, professionals whose job it is to think about these things, thought of it a really long time ago, and they figured out how to account for these discrepancies.
Okay, that's awesome. I'm saying that, look, if I'm taking a hose and I am pouring it into a 1-gallon bucket, right? I've got it turned on full blast, and I've got holes punched in the bottom of that bucket, right? Eventually, there is a point of equilibrium where it will no longer fill up any farther, but it cannot drain any faster, correct? And so you will reach a point of equilibrium.
So organisms only absorb so much. It's actually carbon-14. Yeah, it's the carbon-14. So how do I want to say this? The rate at which it's made in the atmosphere is not the most important thing. It's the rate at which it's absorbed by organisms in the environment. Now, you could make the argument that since it's formed faster than it decays, it is the soil is becoming more and more concentrated with it over time. I've never seen any data that says that's the case one way or another.
Okay,
It's an interesting
but it is what's in the air, correct? But it is what's in the air, correct?
That's where it starts.
That level. Yes, that's where it starts, right? I'm just trying to think of it like a chain of evidence, all right? The chain of possession of evidence, right? Mm-hmm. So it's created in the atmosphere. It sinks down into the air that we breathe, right? And I'm not talking about like we breathe it and that's how it gets into us. I'm saying it comes down and then suddenly the plants are absorbing it, right? It's not something that they just actively go out and are like, oh, hey, that's a carbon-14. Sweetheart, I love you. Mom, I love you. Chill. Everybody just chill for a minute. I'm trying to speak something. They're not going out of their way to try and grab just some C14 particle, right? What it is that they absorb what is available to them. I know, Dropkick McZeus. I know. Anyway, now, they absorb it at the same rate that they absorb everything else that is in our atmosphere. So, if, let's just for a number, carbon-14 is 0.1% or 0.123456. I don't care how many zeros you want to calculate this bitch to. It's the fact that that amount of carbon-14 will exist within the plants that are eaten by the critters, that is eaten by the people, or whatever happens to be the predator of whatever. It will be a constant throughout all of the living things, right? Can we, at least kind of catch a common ground on that?
I think so, sort of. I'm trying to figure out. Uh, to me, in my head, there has to be an equilibrium point where the amount of it where the concentration basically stays the same, because it constantly
Yes,
decays. I'm trying to figure out,
exactly.
and I'm trying to find a source that says
It takes 30,000 years. It takes 30,000 years.
for the
I'll give you the
well,
I'll give
Earth
you the
is more than
short answer.
30,000 years old.
30-ish. No, it takes about 30,000 years.
Well, Earth is older than that, so
Then we should have reached an equilibrium state, right?
yeah, I suppose.
Okay, well then you're at your computer right now, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, look up on just straight up Google if Earth has reached its carbon-14 equilibrium state yet.
It got messed up starting about 150 years ago because of the Industrial Revolution, and then it got further messed up because of nuclear testing. So
Right, but here's the problem.
there may be an imbalance in the recent
Yeah,
few
yeah,
decades, but the
yeah.
overall record is not out of equilibrium because
Okay, but here's the
the
problem. Here's the
record preserves
problem.
things that have been going on for the last several tens of thousands of years.
Okay, that's awesome. But do you want to know what all of those things would do? They would speed it up. They wouldn't slow it down. They would speed it up.
You can't change the rate of radioactive decay.
No, you can't change you cannot change the rate of radioactive decay, but you can change the rate of carbon-14's production by putting out
Yeah,
so many
but
types of nuclear rays within the atmosphere that are not only producing a solar radiation effect from the sun, but also from the surface of the Earth by setting off these nuclear warheads.
yes, but that doesn't affect the carbon 14 that's already in organisms that died a long time
You're
ago.
right. You're right. You're right. It doesn't change the fact that they would still have those. Here's the problem. It's producing more and it's still not enough to be at an equilibrium state. That's like saying, I'm going to go dig up this
That
ship.
doesn't affect
Hold on.
past.
I've got one for you. That's like digging up a ship at the bottom of the ocean and looking at the oldest coin in it and saying that that's how old this ship is. It's not saying I'm looking for the newest coin because the newest coin is the most recent that it could have possibly sunk. It's saying I'm looking for the oldest one so that's how old it is.
No, okay, here's how your analogy actually works with that example. If I find a sunken ship, the most recent coin that I find in the ship is the maximum possible age of the ship. Now,
Exactly.
what would make the argument equivalent is if I came in and said, "No, it doesn't work that way because we're constantly making new coins today." But the new coins
No,
don't
no.
affect what's inside the ship already. The fact that because of nuclear testing and all the carbon we produce today doesn't affect the
Okay.
carbon 14 that's in things that are already many thousands of years old.
And that's fair. That's fair. Now, here's my
So
question.
we don't have a
How much
problem then.
C14 was in that organism when it died?
I can't give
You
you
cannot
a
tell.
number because it's different depending
Exactly.
on the organism, but we have ways of figuring this out. We
How?
correlate it with dendrochronology. We correlate it with other radioactive radiometric techniques. We correlate it with like known historical archaeological sites.
So the
they go into
geological
Egyptian
content.
tombs and they carbon date things that are in them. And because we know who that particular person is, and because their records are good enough, we can know when that person was buried. We adjust the dating techniques to match that. Like, scientists have already thought of many ways to account for this.
Okay. But okay, let me put it to you this way. Let me try this. Let me try this. There's a candle burning in the middle of a room.
Yep, and it's burnt halfway, and we don't know how long it took for half of it to burn.
No, no, no. You don't even know that. You don't even know that it's burnt halfway. All you know is that it's burnt.
Radiometric decay isn't like that at all.
But it is.
But it's not.
It's exactly like that.
No, it's not.
How is it not?
Because we've never observed the rate at which radioactive particles decay to have fluctuated ever at any point in history.
Okay, that's not what I'm.
You can go ahead and say what you're still assuming, but at the end of the day, we still have all the. I'm not going to say them again. I listed all the techniques that scientists use to calibrate their clock methods.
Okay.
Also, furthermore,
that's fair. That's fair. I've got a pretty good question for you though. How tall was the candle? You can never know that. You can never know that. Because that tells you exactly how long ago the 1 inch that it burns every day.
Radioactive decay isn't like that because it's a ratio, not an
absolute amount. It's the same thing. I'm sorry. Here, let me put more
because in one you're talking about a specific mass.
57.
But the way
5,700 years
radiometric dating works is you measure ratios,
only makes it
not
drop an
absolute
inch.
mass. Chris, we don't measure the absolute mass, we measure the ratio. So it doesn't matter how big or how small the candle or the sample is in this case.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't, because you're measuring a ratio. You can take, if I go to the ocean and I take 1 drop of ocean water or 1 billion gallons of ocean water, either one of those is going to tell me the salinity because it doesn't fluctuate based on the sample size. A drop of seawater has the same salinity as a billion gallons of seawater.
Grain of salt.
Now, there are weird fluctuations depending on depth in ocean water, but generally that's true.
Yeah, exactly. It's called a variable.
So comparing ocean water is imperfect, and comparing a candle is imperfect, but comparing the candle is so much more imperfect. Because at least in one, I was talking about ratios, but in the other, you're not.
How can it be?
Imperfect is imperfect. There's no such thing as more or less imperfect. Imperfect either is or
That's not even remotely true. Are you saying being off by 1% is no different than being off by 100%?
I don't know. Whenever it comes to my brainstem, I'd say it's the same damn thing.
Yes, you do know.
Yeah. Whenever it comes to my brainstem, it really doesn't matter. Like, if you're off by a micrometer or if you're off by a mile, it's going to help me the amount that is same. That's fair. You're allowed to, call my argument shit, but it doesn't change the fact that you can never know how old something is without knowing how much C14 it started off with.
No, you don't need to know that. It helps. You can be more accurate with that, but
okay. Hold on.
All you need to know is the ratio. You don't need to know the absolute amount. It's measured in like grams per kilogram of the sample. But also, we correlate these things with dendrochronology, known archaeological sites, and Well, those are the main things, and like historical records.
Okay, that's fair. So, would you agree that the half-life of 16 is 8?
That's not a thing, but sure.
Numerically, okay? That if we were to be measuring half-lives, that if we started with 16, that if we were at 8, it has gone through one half-life.
Yes.
And then if it's 4, it's gone through 2 half-lives.
Yes.
If it's at 2, it's gone through 3 half-lives.
Yes.
So on and so forth, and yada, and yada, and yada. Okay. So, you understand what I'm saying. Now, if I have one thing over here that has 16 molecules of C14, okay, and I don't truly understand all that there is in carbon dating. And, I mean, you very obviously know that I do not thoroughly understand everything to go on with carbon dating. And I will admit that. I'm not trying to come in here. I'm just trying to say that there is
just make
no
your argument. It's fine.
Okay. This thing has 16 molecules of C14. Then we go right over here, right next to it. I'm talking within feet of it, right? And it's only got 4. How do we know that either one of those two assumptions made on both hands is correct? I'm not saying that it could never be right. I'm just saying, how do we know?
So it's not measured by
understand.
counting the number of one particular atom. You do a ratio of, for carbon 14, you do a ratio of carbon 14 to carbon 12. So you do it by the ratio, and because we know approximately how long those half-lives take, depending on how much the ratio between them grows, that tells you how old the sample is. It's not done just by counting the amount of one of them. That would be like trying to weigh a candle after it's been burning to see how much of it's gone. But that's just not how radiometric dating works at all.
But in theory, that's my problem. That's in theory, that basically is how it works. It's seeing the missing amount of something whenever you don't know what the starting value was.
You don't need to know the starting value
to know what's missing?
Terms,
yes, you do.
Because you're measuring a ratio.
Okay, look. If you don't know what you started with, how can you ever know what's missing?
So I don't know if you can do isochron dating with carbon 14, but isochron dating is a technique where you don't need to know how much material you started with. But also, we correlate this with dendrochronology and archaeological dates or archaeological sites of known dates through historical records.
Okay, so known historical records are used to compare these dates that this scientific process is giving you, correct?
When it's possible with carbon 14 sometimes. They do that to calibrate the clock.
Okay, I'm legitimately, like, I've gotten my shit worked out enough. I'm just trying to get in the same ballpark as you, okay? So we're using previous datings for other things that had less scientific provability or provision or hell, I don't know what the fuck the
Just
word would
relying
be.
on them keeping some sort of record and then there being physical evidence.
Okay.
Like we know when the Great Wall of China was built, even though they probably weren't really doing any science at the time. That's not important.
Okay. Look, man, I want to understand you so bad. I really do. Because you seem like a really intelligent person. Uh, I just do not foresee there being a flat ground
This was
that,
water an hour ago.
yeah, Jesus will have that effect on your life.
He left. Okay. Well, in honor of Chris. Yep, there we go. That was a good one.